If you've been watching my streams lately, you know I've been playing a whole lot of a game called Perpetuum. And if you've been watching my videos lately, you know I've been introducing you to the game slowly with 2 what is videos and a first impressions. Well, if you're one of the few that actually watched this and decided to play the game, you know it's pretty overwhelming to start. It's a pretty complex game. It is an open world, survival sandbox MMO, I guess you could call it, and there's a lot to it. And you don't get taught all of it in the tutorial, otherwise the tutorial would be insanely long. Therefore, to help ease your starting experience if you want to get into the game, I'm going to put together now this what to do first video in Perpetuum. The first thing you want to do first should be very obvious. It is the tutorial. Well, that may seem like a no-brainer for most. There are a lot of players that play video games, I dare say half or more, that skip tutorials in every game that they play. And as a new player in Perpetuum or any game like it, skipping the tutorial or doing the tutorial may be the difference between liking the game and playing it for a very long time or getting super confused day one and quitting. So the very first thing, of course, that I'm going to recommend you do is the tutorial. Now, other than the no-brainer reason of learning the game, you also get some pretty good stuff in the tutorial as a new player. Based on what faction you pick, and yes, at the end of the tutorial, you have to pick a faction between Thalatica, Nuimqual, Pedestal, and Industry. And yes, Industry is a faction that you pick. Not only does this choice determine what skills you start the game with when you leave the tutorial, it also determines what free robots you get upon finishing the tutorial as well. By default, you will get 2 syndicate robots for free, a light bot and an assault bot. Good for combat, good for a variety of starting activities, but in the long run, mainly good for combat. Your other 2 bots are decided by what faction you pick. And so one of the first things you want to do is pick a faction, and you want to make sure you're picking the right one at the very beginning, which would be Industry. Should be self-explanatory. If you want to do a variety of activities such as mining, harvesting, actual manufacturing in Industry, you're going to want to pick the Industry teleport, and that will give you some free indie mechs to start and indie skills. The other 3 are a variety of combat factions with electronic warfare and support skills as well, but normally for support I do see most players use Industry mechs anyway. If you're thinking about playing a combat support, either that or Syndicate, which Syndicate isn't one you can pick, but it's a very cheap and affordable faction you can spec into no matter which faction you pick, that has the only dedicated combat support bot in the game and the only dedicated exploration bot in the game. Not that other bots can't fill these roles as well. For the other factions, you're going to pick based on playstyle if you're not picking the Industry start. For Thalatica, you're going to be a resistance tank. You're going to sit down, you're going to absorb damage, you're going to shoot very accurately over fairly long distances with lasers, but you're also going to be slower, a little sluggish. You'll be able to repair through some of your damage, but at the end of the day, you're going to tank by resisting things. Push it over to Nuimqual, and now you're talking magnetic weapons. You're talking a lack of overall accuracy, but a whole lot of speed for a hit-and-run playstyle with good burst damage. Your resists and your armor buffer without further modification will be probably trash, but your armor repair speed is where your tank is. You can't die if you repair more than the damage you take, right? And finally, Pedestal. These are your missile boats. These are the only ones that can really fire over objects as a main damage type or play style. You don't really use armor repairers as a Pedestal. You can, but your main tanking is actually supposed to be a shield. You go into combat with your shield up, you drop it just long enough to fire your missiles, and then you put that bitch back up and you wait out the relatively long cooldowns that Pedestal has. And while every faction has different weapon types for close and short range, more damage, better range, you know, you're picking your trade-offs, Pedestal actually has different ammo types, so they can trade their long or short range playstyles on the fly simply by loading a different ammo type. Now, I may do a longer look into these factions in the future. If you guys want to see a video on that, let me know, but that's generally the 4 choices you're going to get to pick between at the very beginning, so make sure you know what you want to do. After you get out of the tutorial, the first thing I'd recommend you do is the training missions. You can find these in the same assignments button that they showed you in the tutorial to show you, I believe, a transport mission. And there's a couple of different ones here, but I suggest you do all of them if you get the time to. Maybe skip the industry one, because these do give you some decent rewards at the start as a new player. They do give you some free ammo, some free modules, some free robots, and since they are actually an old tutorial that just isn't used anymore, it is a pretty good way to refine what you learned in the tutorial. These missions don't hold your hand as much as the actual tutorial, which allows you to actually put into practice what you've learned rather than have arrows pointed at the screen for everything the game wants you to do. This next part can actually really be done whenever you're ready to do it, but this next part is to find a corporation, a player corporation. This is more of a suggestion. You don't have to do that. You can play this game solo, lone wolf if you want, but I would suggest finding a corporation. Ideally, one that's willing to help you learn the game, help you learn what it is you want to do, and is welcoming. I have my own corporation in-game. It's named after this YouTube channel, Konglomerat. My name in the game is Resoula. If you want, you can PM me in-game, send me a message, or join the community server in the description below and contact me there if you join the game and you end up wanting to join my corp. I love helping new players get started and helping them figure out what it is they want to do. We do all sorts of activities in my corp, but again, you don't have to join mine if you start the game. I'm just offering to help you get started, and I won't be offended if you leave after joining. There are plenty of other good and much bigger corporations in the game that can be just as helpful, if not more helpful to you. So I would suggest getting in the general chat, getting in the recruitment chat somewhere, talking to the other players, learning about the corps, and experimenting. Find one that suits you. Find one that you like. Find one that is going to help you accomplish my next point on what to do first, which is to pick a career path. By now, you've already picked a faction, maybe you found a corp. You should have a good idea of what you're leaning towards doing. Maybe you want to do combat. What kind of combat? Maybe you want to run taps. Maybe you want to do assignments. Maybe you want to do PvP. I don't know, maybe you want to do industry, mining, harvesting. Maybe you want to do exploration, transport missions, some mixture. Maybe you're not happy doing one thing, you want to do a variety. Well, you're going to want to pick early on because EP, experience points, are hard to gain over time. You'll get them, and as a new player you get them faster than anybody else, but you want to ideally not waste your points. Do note though, at the time of recording this, if you do make a mistake, you don't need to completely just delete your character and start from scratch, make a new account, none of that. You can delete your character, contact one of the game developers, one of the community developers here in Open Perpetuum, the community server, and ask them once per account only to reset your status. Basically, all of your locked EP from your first character that you spent will be freed up again for you to fix your mistake and go down the path you actually want to go down. So in case you don't like the path you did go down, you always get a second try to restart it without having to completely start from scratch. So that's very kind of them. Do not abuse that. I do plan on making videos in the future about a bunch of the activities you can do in this game, as well as some beginner activities, which if you want to see anything specific, again, let me know in the comments. And now the next point is something I've touched on a bit already, and that is to allocate your EP based on which path you pick. Or more importantly, don't get out of the tutorial thinking that you have to spend all 40,000 EP the game gives you if you're not sure what you want to do yet. Experiment. You get some starting skills. Only put EP into things you want to do at first. Save the rest. It will mean you're not min-maxing as much towards what you're doing right now, but maybe you don't know all the activities yet, which is very likely when you're a new player. Therefore, it is perfectly fine to take it at your own pace, learn what the game has to offer, and only assign your experience points when you know what it is you want to do. Which leads me to the next point. I guess all three of these kind of go hand in hand, and that is to gear up a bot based on what you want to do. And this very common mistake I see here where someone will just take one of the starter bots and just try to do whatever it is they want with it. They'll take their starter modules, throw it on a bot it doesn't belong. Do some research into the bots you're using. There are bots designed for specific module use and for specific activities. There are combat bots, but they're designed to use different weapons. If you pick Thalotica and you get some free lasers after doing the tutorial, don't throw it on your Vector. Don't throw it on your Locust. Those are designed to use firearms. Don't buy a cane or something like that and then try to throw lasers on it. Hit information after right-clicking on a robot, go to bonuses, and you will be able to read what your robot is good at. As well as under the parameters, you get a good description of what a bot is designed for, what activity you should be bringing it into. Like if you like transport missions, don't just run around in one of the starter bots if you can help it. You should have enough points to spec into industry or syndicate industry to get either an Icarus or a Secker in order to get you started with a very fast, very good transport bot that will speed up your productivity and help you make more EP and more NIC, which is money, in this game at a faster rate. The next thing you're going to want to do once you have all of this planned out and set up, which you should be doing anyway if you don't know what it is you want to do yet, is just do some beginner activities. You start on New Virginia, the only Alpha 1 island in the entire game, which means it's the easiest island. There's all sorts of things you can do here. You can go ratting, you can do assignments of many different activities like I talked about earlier. You can go and kill the bosses around the island. Try out one of the mini strongholds. Don't rush to get to a beta island. Don't rush to hop into PvP unless that's really what you want to do. You cannot be killed by other players on an alpha island unless you turn your PvP flag on. So take advantage of the safety to learn the game, to learn what it is you want to do in the game. That is my suggestion, and like I said earlier, I will also make videos covering some of these beginner activities you can do. And now my final point on the what to do first list is to move. When you're ready, when you've learned the game, when you're ready to move on from the easiest island in the game, move. If you want to do PvP, maybe you want to go to a beta island where PvP is enabled. Maybe you've joined a Corp and they're inviting you to live on their beta island with them and take part in their internal market. Maybe you want a safer experience at the start, so you want to stay on an alpha island where there is no PvP enabled. That's when you move over to the Alpha 2 island, Hirschfield, where level 4 missions are available, harder enemies spawn, more activities are available, harder bosses exist, more rewards exist. One way or another, you're not going to want to stay on New Virginia forever. Well, you might. Who am I to say what you can do? But more than likely, you're not going to want to stay there forever. You're going to want to go to Hirschfield, probably, or if you happen to have gotten into a corporation that owns a beta island or a terminal on one, maybe you're off to there. Take the game at your own pace. Go one step at a time. Don't let anyone bring you out of your comfort zone into a beta island where you can get killed and lose everything on you at any time until you're ready for it. Hirschfield is the biggest marketplace in the entire game at Hirschfield Main Terminal. It's probably the most active island in terms of just where the general population does things. It's a great place to meet other players and to participate in all the beginner activities and PvE activities the game has to offer, while being just a single teleport away from all the exciting rewards and activities of PvP that the beta islands, that everything in the rest of the game and soon to be Gamma Islands has to offer. And that's it for this video. I hope you guys found it helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't noticed already, I'm trying to pump out a Perpetuum video every Tuesday, so next Tuesday you can expect another one from me. But for now, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next Tuesday.